Well, it is a major story coming out this morning. Speaking about Putco bus commuters that have been left stranded this morning, the company suspends its service after government failed to pay its subsidy. This led to Putco running out of diesel for its buses. But government says the company has since been paid, but the money will only reflect on Monday. Our colleague Heidi Giokos is checking in on the situation in Soweto for us this morning. Heidi, I know that earlier on we had a conversation with the spokesperson of Putco regarding some of the communications that have been happening between the two. But it doesn't change the fact that today commuters are left stranded. What do we see so far?
Yes, of course, commuters have been left stranded since Putco decided to suspend its operations due to receiving late payment from the Department of Transport in the province. We are at the Dobsonville depot where ordinarily it would be empty at this time of the morning, with most buses being out and about transporting commuters to their various destinations, to work, to school, to wherever they would be heading to. But a very different image here this morning because all the buses are parked due to that decision taken by Putco to suspend its operations. I do think it's important to highlight the fact that Putco has made it very clear that they found themselves in a very difficult position due to the non-payment of the Department of Transport in the province, because they obviously have operational costs that they need to fulfill, and because the department has not paid them on time, they cannot fulfill those obligations and those operational costs. On the other hand, the Department of Transport saying that they had forewarned Putco about this late payment and that they have already made the payment, but it will only reflect on Monday the 8th of May. At the end of the day, though, Faith, it creates a very difficult environment for commuters as they've had to now make alternative arrangements for to get to their various destinations. Many of them, of course, needing to scramble and find alternative ways of getting to their destinations and different uses of transport, which, of course, does cause a bit of panic. It was a very different image this morning. Normally you would see these buses on the road, but that was not the case this morning. And as you mentioned, we did speak to the spokesperson earlier on, who said should anything change, they will of course inform all those involved and affected. But at this stage, operations still remain suspended.
Yeah. Heidi, then the big question becomes, did they not know? This is not the first time, I'm sure, this kind of thing has happened. It's not the first time that you have a new financial year that is kicking in. It's not the first time that we have delayed payments. Yeah. Clearly here it just seems like the biggest problem is a break in communication. And one wonders, was there not adequate planning for it? If financial years end every single year, it's nothing new in the context of any form of company. But this time around, clearly something went wrong. And it almost appears as though there's this tussle between Putco as well as Gauteng Department of Transport.
Yes, but I mean, when we spoke to the spokesperson just a short while ago, Faith, he did indicate that, you know, there should be no finger pointing at this stage, because at the end of the day, operations remain suspended. Commuters find themselves in a very difficult position. Bus drivers are unable to fulfill their duties driving these buses. So it becomes very difficult to say who did what and why wasn't the payment done on time. It's an important question you raised, though, because the department is saying that they had forewarned Putco, and that this is something that often happens when they move into a new financial year. But Putco is saying they have financial obligations and they do not have the means to necessarily have a surplus without the subsidy of government. So they need to be in a position to be able to have that subsidy from government to continue with its operations. I'm just going to ask my colleague Percy Sibia to just actually show you. They are a bit far from us, but I mean, there you see the Putco driver buses not operating today because of the suspension. As I've shown you before, the buses remain parked. So yes, it might be a situation where the department's saying we forewarned Putco, but Putco's saying that doesn't necessarily make it easier for them to continue with their operations, because they need this subsidy to continue with their operations. And, you know, it's not a small subsidy that they receive from government. It's quite a large subsidy, and they need to continue with their operations. If they know that they're supposed to get a certain amount of money coming in from the Department of Transport at the end of the month and they do not receive it, how do they continue with their operations? So puts Putco in a very difficult position. The department almost washing their hands and saying, well, we had forewarned Putco, and Putco saying, well, quite frankly, that's not acceptable because we need this money to continue with our operations.